Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts. So let's actually get right to it for the special episode. We got three prehistoric creatures to talk about. Most of them are actually pretty much they're going to be dinosaurs. So let's actually start with Dilophosaurus. And everybody knows Dilophosaurus. Mostly it's a very famous dinosaur. Dilophosaurus means two-crested lizard because of the crest on the top of its head. Its size is actually about 20 feet long, probably approximately would have weighed around 1,000 pounds. Lived in the late Triassic, early Jurassic time period, so right on that border. And of course, it's a carnivore. Fossils are mostly found in North America, but there is some fossils of a different species of Dilophosaurus that have been found in China, but most of the specimens that we're actually going to be very familiar with is actually from North America. Of course, it's a carnivore, and Dilophosaurus, for the characteristics, basically with the name, it actually has two crests on the top of its head, and so hence the name two-crested lizard, or two-crested reptile in Greek or Latin, and so these crests are not really designed for combat. They're actually designed for display purposes. Males would have probably had larger crests and probably would have shown bright colors for the crests, whereas females are probably a little bit smaller crests. Probably didn't actually use them for display as much, but probably would have used them for recognition for males and also other females. Now, with Dilophosaurus, another characteristic of it, it has 4 fingers on each hand. So that means it's a primitive theropod. So this is actually a theropod that is not as well advanced as some of, like, say, the Allosaurs, or Carcharodontosaurs, or even the Tyrannosaurs, Dromaeosaurs, or Troodontids. And so these were actually theropods that were we're in the beginning of the stages of actually getting larger. And so Dilophosaurus was actually one of the first theropod dinosaurs to actually be very large. But it's not large in terms of, like, say, Allosaurus or Tyrannosaurus rex. It's because it's 20 feet long, so it's a medium-sized theropod. And so this animal would actually have some speed, but also another distinguishing feature about Dilophosaurus is part of the skull. And you see on the top part of the skull, right where the upper jaws are, there's this little notch that actually is right around the snout area. And it does have teeth in there, so you would think it's like a snapping trap type of jaws. So it would actually be snapping its jaws at prey. Some paleontologists think it probably was hunting fish a lot more often than dinosaurs, but that's still up for debate considering that it's a land-dwelling type of theropod. And so it wouldn't surprise me that they actually hung around, like, on rivers and ponds and lakes, and once they actually see, like, a fish swimming nearby, and they'll actually just make a quick snapping movement and actually capture the fish and actually eat the fish. But they probably actually did eat other dinosaurs, mainly prosauropods, kind of like Ankylosaurus. If you ever seen when dinosaurs roamed North America, you actually see one segment where they actually are in the border of the Triassic and Jurassic, and Dilophosaurus is roaming around Pennsylvania, and it was actually hunting down an Ankylosaurus, which is a very common prey source for Dilophosaurus. And so it could actually slash if it had to, but on the show perspective, it probably did not slash very often. It probably used its claws for grabbing, not really for slashing. So, because the claws are not really going to be designed for slashing that much, because Dilophosaurus is part of a group of theropod dinosaurs called Dilophosaurids, basically, hence the name. It includes Dilophysis, Monolophosaurus, and Centarsus. All those types of dinosaurs that actually kind of have crests on their heads. And so these are early theropods, and so these theropods were actually going to be the design for large theropods. And so because the more common, popular Dilophosaurus that we've actually been seeing is the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park. Now, to remind you, to a lot of people that actually have seen Jurassic Park, and you actually think that Dilophosaurus probably has this frill and it was a venomous dinosaur, it's not true. See, what it is that they actually used traits from two types of animals and actually put them into a really cool looking dinosaur. The frill is actually from a frilled lizard from Australia, and so they thought like, oh, that's really cool. Why don't we put that on a Dilophosaurus? We think it might make Dilophosaurus really cool. But also another thing that they actually added was venom, the spitting venom, and that's actually from a spitting cobra. And so they actually thought like, let's actually add it, let it spit like this black venom and actually be blinding its prey and all that sorts of stuff. That's not true at all. There's no evidence to suggest that Dilophosaurus had venom glands or anything like that. Could there be poisonous dinosaurs? Absolutely, there could have been poisonous dinosaurs, kind of like Sinornithosaurus from China. Because see, those kinds of dinosaurs probably did have venom, because we actually see like a little pocket in the maxilla, and there's like teeth that actually have like these grooves that actually suggest that it probably had like a biting force type of venom gland. But with venom in terms of large theropods is not known, and so we're actually saying that large theropods didn't use venom that much. And extinction of Dilophosaurus is due to the fact that climate changes actually happened, and it just couldn't actually adapt to the changes in the environment because it's such a primitive theropod. New theropods came in and actually took the niche of where Dilophosaurus would actually have the new niche of saying, now we're the rulers, we can actually take care of it. All right, the next theropod we're actually talking about is Eocarcharia. Now, Eocarcharia in Greek or Latin means dawn shark. Fossils are found in northern Africa. Middle Cretaceous, length about 25 feet, and would have weighed possibly between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds. It's a carnivore, of course. Now, Eocarcharia would actually be an early form of a carcharodontosaurid. Now, it would be a primitive carcharodontosaurid, so it would be considered to be like a basal carcharodontosaurid. And so this animal would actually be hunting large animals, so it would be hunting down sauropods, mainly the titanosaurs, and probably some iguanodontid type of herbivores. Now, this dinosaur is not as large as like Mapusaurus or Carcharodontosaurus or even Giganotosaurus, because those dinosaurs would actually be very large. And this dinosaur would actually be living in like woodland areas, probably be stalking down probably the iguanodontids a little bit more than the sauropods. It probably would have actually attacked medium-sized sauropods. Probably could have actually attacked the large one, but they would actually have to rely on a pack to actually take one down. But they can't actually take down a healthy adult, because if they tried to take down a healthy adult, it would actually be way too hard for them to actually overcome a healthy adult. And so, with Eocarcharia, this dinosaur would actually would not have that much of competition, considering that it would actually be like an early form of a carcharodontosaurid. There would actually suggest that Eocarcharia became Carcharodontosaurus, and so that would actually explain how evolution kind of actually works that way, you know. And so when you actually look at the African woodlands, it would actually just be a very harsh kind of place, but it would actually just be mostly Eocarcharia actually being the top predator at that time. But even though this dinosaur is still kind of unknown to me, but even though I can kind of actually get some information out about this dinosaur, it still has the blade-like teeth of a Carcharodontosaurian, so it would actually not be biting bone that much, and it would actually just be a dinosaur that actually just be ripping flesh off of the bones instead of actually crushing bones. An extinction of this animal, climatic changes, new predators, you name it. It would actually just be mostly climate changes. Now, the next dinosaur we're actually going to talk about is a ceratopsian, and it's a well-known ceratopsian called Styracosaurus. Now, Styracosaurus in Greek or Latin means pointed lizard. Now, Styracosaurus would have gotten to lengths of a little bit over 20 feet, probably between 20 and 25 feet, and would have actually weighed in maybe 3 to 5 tons, and lived in the late Cretaceous period around between 80 to 70 million years ago, and of course it's a herbivore, and it's a ceratopsian. The distinguishing features of Styracosaurus are pretty much these horns on the frill and also the single nose horn, because that's what Styracosaurus is known for. And it's just a brilliant looking skull if you actually look at it. The frill is just amazing to look at. It's a decorative type of skull. So it would actually suggest that this was a display purpose mostly. Could actually be used for defense? Possibly, because you see, if you got those horns on the frill, it would be hard for predators to actually take a bite out of that frill. But also the frill has 2 holes. So that means there would have been a layer of skin covering that. And so this is not like Triceratops or Eocarcharia or anything like that. It would actually just be mostly just kind of like other ceratopsians where it actually had holes in the frill. And so it would probably did live in medium to large herds, and it would actually be taking care of the young, and also it would probably been rutting seasons. It would probably behave more like rhinos for rutting season, for mating season, but mostly it would actually show the frills. Males would actually just show their frills, mainly like how more decorative the frill is, how colorful the frill is, that sort of stuff. But once it comes to physical confrontations, it probably didn't butt heads as much. It probably actually kind of almost did like horn wrestling, kind of like a very violent version of arm wrestling. So it actually kind of actually get horns right next to each other, and they just kind of wrestled a little bit. But it would have caused a lot of injuries, especially to males that are probably too old to do it. And so these dinosaurs would actually be very violent in mating season. And the common predators for Styracosaurus are Albertosaurus, Daspletosaurus. So these would actually be the more common predators that it would actually encounter. And Gorgosaurus probably did try to attack one, but if it tried to, it would actually just be more relying on a family pack to actually take one down. But if the Gorgosaurus could take one on its own, I mean, so be it. But Gorgosaurus actually was around later in that part of the Cretaceous, between 75 and 70 million years ago. And and when we actually see about Styracosaurus, we see Styracosaurus in certain movies, like the 1925 version of The Lost World, The Valley of Gwangi. That's actually in there. Styracosaurus is a very well-known dinosaur to the dinosaur community, and it's actually just kind of one of those iconic ceratopsians, because it's got that decorative-looking skull. And I think it's just a pretty cool-looking ceratopsian. It's one of my favorite ceratopsians of all time, considering that Triceratops is a little bit more famous, but it's actually Styracosaurus is right in my top 5 favorite ceratopsians. So it would actually be right up there, because it's actually so cool looking. It's such a cool looking skull and all that sort of stuff. I mean, this is so cool. And of course, the extinction of Styracosaurus was pretty much climatic changes. Couldn't adapt to those kinds of changes. During the late Cretaceous, around 70 million years ago, instead of actually cooling down, it started to get a little bit warmer, and so that actually would suggest that Styracosaurus couldn't handle warmer temperatures in its time, because fossils of Styracosaurus are mostly found in Canada and parts of Montana, so it would actually be found in like areas where there's be a little bit more cooler climates. So it'd be living in like a deciduous types of forests and swampy areas. So it would actually be living around those kinds of areas. And so once those areas started to disappear, it just couldn't actually adapt to that kind of change. Alright, that's it for now. Now next week will actually be an answering questions episode. So if you got questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinocris71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on the wall or in the comments section on any Facebook post. But remember, keep your questions short and to the point. You can also follow me on Twitter at CSJILL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. Also, take care of the people around you. And also, for younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you get a good job in the future. All right, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week.